welcome to the Beyond Cinema studio up here at TIFF. Conleth, Michael. Congratulations, made your feature debut after having some success with Big Blue and Graham and your other shorts up here at TIFF also. Having played here at TIFF before, how's it feel kind of this time around? Does it feel different, or does it feel like you've paved the road for yourself?
No, it feels like I'm returning home.
Yeah.
The TIFF, no, it was an amazing experience last year, and to come back a year later with your debut feature in front of the TIFF audience is a sort of a dream come true. On this scale for me, because it's a big step moving from a short to feature, and there's no better place than here. And we premiered last night, and I think the reaction was really, really positive. It was great.
Were you already down the road with the feature when all the good news was coming out about the short?
Yeah, it was actually, we found out we were sort of shortlisted for the Oscars the day before we started filming. So it was a real onus, do you know what I mean, going into the feature film, and then the stars just seemed to align the following year with the nomination and the BAFTAs, and then now this. Yeah. So I'm just waiting for it to all tumble now at the end.
This is as good as it gets.
Yeah, this is it.
It must feel good though, as a director, also just coming to set, like, you know, knowing that that's behind you, kind of having.
It was a bit obvious when he brought his nomination out.
Was that a wee bit overkill?
Yeah,
was it?
A little bit.
Yeah.
He built himself a nomination statue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
He wears them.
Yeah.
You're wearing your BAFTA right now.
Yeah, no, it's in here. That's right.
That's great. So where did you two meet? Had you met before, or just when you?
No, about a couple of weeks before we started shooting. And
talk to me about the process, because so many young directors have to do, you know, various things, and they bring lookbooks, or they meet on Skype, and like, where were you guys?
Well, there was no essence of naivety or inexperience about Michael. He was very assured and knew what he was doing and knew what he wanted, and so you didn't kind of go, oh, greenhorn. He was in charge.
And then,
You're welcome, Michael.
And for yourself, what do you look for in terms of a working relationship? What do you want to see?
Oh God, well, it varies. You know, I don't think you can have a hard and fast rule. I would choose projects by script normally.
Yeah.
Unless the director has such a reputation, or that you don't need to see a script, but normally it would be script-based decision.
Yeah.
And the script was so good for this, and many layered kind of character, and I loved that so much was wrong with him. He was so damaged. So that was a challenge. And also the fact that Stephen Graham, the brilliant Stephen Graham, was on board just was another incentive, you know.
Had you worked together?
Never, no. But I'd been an admirer of his work for a long time.
There's another Graham in the movie too.
Yeah, Stuart, who's also a brilliant actor.
Yeah.
But they're not related.
Not related.
I mean, they could get married if they wanted nowadays, which is fine, but they're not.
Although it would make things easy.
Well, yes.
Yeah, no one would have to change their name.
No. There was no Graham, first name Grahams, it was just surname Graham.
It was just surname Grahams.
Yeah. So working with Stephen, his character in this is not, could easily be described as odd.
Yes.
You think?
Yes, but we've been talking about this, and he said to Michael, I don't want him just to be a caricature psychopath. So there is a vulnerability there and a pathos there but he's a fantastic working technique, and as I said, we have a brilliant script, but then Stephen adds to that with lots of lack of awareness of spatial. He was right in your. Just this guy that was a little too close and a little too touchy-feely, and so that all added to the depth of it, you know.
Yeah, and for Michael, having this take place in Northern Ireland, was that important to you to shoot in Ireland, like with your first feature in Northern Ireland?
I think that it's a story, that could be set anywhere, but it was really rewarding that it was set, in Belfast, and more now, I hope over the next few years we'll see more and more genre stories or other stories apart from what we've used to had. Not going against stories about the Troubles. There's been some great films, but it was really nice to try something different. And also, I love the fact Conleth's from Northern Ireland, Stephen's from England, Lara Pulver's from London. So it's a Northern Ireland film, but very much Northern Ireland's an international place now, with such a mix of cultures, and it was good. It was good to sort of reflect that in this film.
And you had the support of both kind of parties as well, the BFI as well as Northern Ireland Screen coming into it. What was that a process where you knew you had their support ahead of time? How hard was that to secure?
Well, Northern Ireland Screen were on board from the very beginning, and they've supported all my projects from my very first short to now. Do you know what I mean? So they've been sort of, massive supporters of me. And then the BFI came on, at a later stage after a bit of script development. But no, they're brilliant organisations. They're more than funders. They care about the film. They want to make the best possible film, and they care about my vision for the film. So I have nothing but great things to say.
It's great. And for you, Conleth, being able to stay in Northern Ireland, how often do you get to do that? I know that obviously Game of Thrones has kind of taken over the landscape pretty literally.
Yeah, that's cool though. I remember seeing Sopranos when I was much younger and going, I'd love to do something with HBO, but I'd have to leave home and move over to the States, and it would be such an upheaval. I waited and they came to us, so it was worth waiting for.
There's because I want to kind of draw a little bit of a parallel here, but because now there are all these Game of Thrones tours, tour buses that go through the countryside and go up to the causeway and do all these things.
Our tourism has benefited hugely from Game of Thrones.
But you've got essentially all these kind of...
No.
What was that?
Conleth's doing the tours.
Just a guy,
the front of the bus.
The microphone. If you look to your left, ladies and gentlemen.
But there are super fans roaming the country, and
but they're pretty intelligent people. They're not. I've never suffered from nerd glare or nerd stare. They've always been very pleasant and well mannered, and do you mind if I take a photograph? So it's not a hassle at all.
So they don't approach the Stephen Graham character level of intensity.
No.
Of fandom.
No, I had one experience where a woman went towards my crotch to see if there was anything there, and that's been about the... But that was a great party.
That was seriously?
Yes.
Seriously?
Yeah.
It's about 5 years before Game of Thrones.
Yes. It's nothing to do with Game of Thrones.
That was nothing to do with Game of Thrones.
It's just a story you want to tell.
Yeah. And who wouldn't? I'm still seeing her.
Yeah.
No. No, they're smart. They're not they're not frightening or intimidating. They just seem to be nice people who go, would you mind if I take a photograph?
Yeah.
And I say, yeah, but I'm not taking my top off again. And they're happy with that.
But is that something that's, it's got to be a new sensation for Northern Ireland too, right? To have that sort of attention.
Yeah, I think the talent has always been there. The crews have always been brilliant there. And as Michael said, there was a reluctance to do anything there that wasn't specific to what was going on. But I think some of the best things that have been made there, apart from, as Michael said, the war stories have been things that just concentrated on people. And that the other things were secondary, as they are to most people, who live there.
You've got such a rich history on stage. Is Stephen similar? Is he a theatre guy?
I think he started in theatre, but he was just snapped up by film and television at a young age.
And for you, if you had to, kind of give advice to people, it seems like right now, especially out of the UK and Northern Ireland, people who have a theatre background, it's still one of those things that's respected. And we were talking to both the present artistic director of the National in London and the former Nicholas Heitner and Rufus Norris. They're both here at the festival as well. And they're both talking about how people from the region are still kind of going back and forth from film to theatre.
Well, I think that, that it's a choice, and but also it isn't a choice sometimes. From my early career, I was never asked to do TV or film, or if you do a long run, if you're in a year's run, you're not really available to do TV and film. So I never worried about it. I just kept on doing my theatre, and it kind of evolved eventually. But I think the crews over there are just second to none. And now there's so many productions going on there besides Game of Thrones and besides, independent, low-budget movies that they know it's a good deal over there.
For you, Michael, it must be an exciting time with so much talent being available to you. What do you when you're working on your projects and trying to source your projects, like, is there still an aspiration? It used to be the case where people used to always aspire to moving to LA and doing that whole thing. Is that the case with you, or are you really kind of happy within the system and infrastructure you've managed to create?
Yeah, no, I'd like to. No, I'd love to make films, in LA, as well. But I don't see it as, LA's the end, goal. I think the UK and Northern Ireland, it's just different, but it's just as good, in its own way. I think British cinema is as good as it has ever been, and there's so many British actors now, working, in America and American, TV. And as Conleth said, The Lost City of Z, Brad Pitt's company, is filming in Belfast, last week. So it's sort of, it's becoming on the map.
Well, it's a great location because you've got a city, but within 20 minutes you can be in the countryside. And I think, LA, you'd have to travel a day before you'd get to the country. But that's one of the appeals of it as a film location. And also, like, for historical and period pieces, there's completely untouched countryside, and it's all going on.
Yeah, and Michael, in terms of just like the mentorship and people that have kind of helped you forge your path, like, is there anyone specifically that has kind of fostered that relationship for you?
Yeah, as well as Northern Ireland Screens, and the BFI, in terms of providing practical funding support. I went to film school in London, and one of my tutors is a film here, Stephen Frears. So, Stephen Frears, and I've had access to people like that. I've always been there to point out what I've been doing wrong.
Yeah, but that's also...
Well, which is a brilliant thing, just to have that sort of relationship.
But your composer and your DOP, they were all met while they were at drama school, weren't
Yeah,
they?
yeah.
Or
And
film school?
Yeah, the composer and cinematographer were people I met, at film school, and it's great. We're all seeming to rise together, at the same points. It's a very collaborative place.
That's great. And just a final question for you both: if you had to choose a still from the film, from Patch of Fog, to frame and put up on a wall somewhere, what picture would you choose? What frame would you choose?
What frame would I? I think it's the scene where they both sort of smoke drugs together, and they're laughing, laughing hysterically. I think that sums up the mad quirkiness of this strange stalker movie. It sort of sums up this strangely dark tone.
Yeah, I'll go with that.
Take that one.
Yeah.
No.
What he said.
What he said.
All right, guys. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you
Very
for the end of your
much.
day with us.
Cheers.
Cheers.